Hi everybody and welcome to my Sustainable Style series. In this series I am going to be with Heather Chaplet, who is the founder, owner and designer of Xoomba Fashions. They are based in Africa, on the continent of Africa, in a lovely landlocked country called Burkina Faso. And if you haven't heard about that country, please go and check it out. So I found Heather online, and please don't go and check out her website, and we'll provide some links for that down below. But Heather, welcome, and thank you for taking time out in your busy day to join me on this series. I'm really excited to take everyone through the journey of what it takes to make fashion and how individuals can aid a more sustainable world, etc. So please, first of all, let's start. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your business.
Well, I started in theater, actually. I wanted to work in theater as a theater creator. And I loved the idea of being able to use all the different art forms that you can use in theater. You can really go from visual arts to music to, it just is open to everything, and it's so much fun. And I was making, one of the things I was working on was this show that was based on costumes that I made, and the music was actually adapted to the costumes. But I guess at one point I just had this sort of quick change around where we're hurtling towards the sixth extinction right now. And we're the state of affairs of the planet it's serious. It's like we need to be thinking about this. And I felt like theater, it was these fantastic theatrics was so much fun, but it wasn't really attacking the solutions that we need to find. So I thought, well, what can I do with the interests that I have and the talents that I have that can be part of a solution? Because I think really, to me, the thing that's so important is how do we find a way as humans to survive on this earth without harming each other and without harming the earth. So that's like the issue. There's so many side issues of course to deal with, and everyone has their speciality. But if we don't figure out how to have a livelihood that isn't harmful, then we're not getting anywhere. So I started working, and then I also do have a lot of background in design because my parents are designers. And so I was very familiar with the process of making things and getting them through production and working in different countries with different cultures, etc. And so I did have that in my background as well. And so yeah, I realized, at first I thought I could do design by ordering sustainable fabrics and making beautiful things out of them. But this was at least 15 years ago. There was very little choice for sustainable fabrics. I really couldn't find anything that interesting. Everything was kind of an oatmeal color. And so I thought, gosh, if I have to start making the fabric, that's going to be a big project. And it's going to be, I'll be spending a lot of time doing it. And so I wanted to do it in a part of the world that I find interesting. And so that brought me towards West Africa. Always had a real cultural love of West Africa. And my husband as well, he's a musician. And he's worked with a lot of West African musicians. He's French, and he's worked with wonderful. That was kind of a social opening of, on our first trip we stayed with contacts that were from the music world. We made a trip in 2009 across the whole sort of West Africa, from Senegal all the way down to Benin, to see all of the places where they're producing organic cotton, because that's really the fiber that's being produced here that is sustainable. there are other possibilities, but they're not in production yet. This is something that we can use already.
Mm-hmm.
And ended up deciding to work in Burkina Faso. There were wonderful things in every place that we went through, but I am happy to have chosen Burkina Faso. There's a very interesting political atmosphere here. They've had a history of a revolutionary leader called Thomas Sankara, and he was all about independence, not only on the political level, but on the economic level. So he was all about using our resources here and getting the most value out of what is here on the African continent, you know, just so that includes cotton. And so he, for instance, had his whole government wearing fabrics that were produced from cotton grown in Burkina and woven and sewn here in Burkina.
Yeah,
and so I feel almost like I'm on that same mission for that particular. He was also amazing with planting trees, with women's rights, with all sorts of things. And that mentality is still part of the, you know, the atmosphere here. People understand it. They're like, yes, you know, we know that's a good thing. And so I've been really interested. It's tricky though, because it's landlocked, and that I didn't realize how much that affects the logistics of things.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just everything is more complicated than you think. And it's one of the poorest countries. I think it's the third poorest country on the UN rankings of wealth.
Okay.
So there's a lot of lack of infrastructure, and you end up actually spending a lot on things you didn't realize you were going to spend on, you know, just getting things from one place to another and that kind of thing. But,
so you basically come into or go into Burkina, and I think you've been there for, what is it, 15 years now? Am I wrong? Am I right? Am I just plucking that figure out of the air?
No, it's like, it was 2010 that we did the first prototypes, 2011 that we started filling orders.
Fantastic. And I think it's fabulous that, you know, you're also helping to build the economy, and you've been able to find synergy in what you do, and, you know, your passions with a country and a people that need the support and are willing and open to having you there as well. So I understand there are two parts to your business. There is, you know, you and your designs, but there's also the production of organic fabrics or organic cottons for other designers and others. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, that's definitely been the bulk of my business, has been supplying other designers with our fabrics. At the moment, we have some great customers. There's a company called Studio 189, and they produce in Ghana. She's actually half from New York and half from Ghana, and she's producing in Ghana, so I send our things down to Ghana to be made into her clothes. I'm also working with another company called Indigo Africa, and they are all about, you know, they're in the same mission as I am, about developing the resources here and really helping artisans to valorize what they do. Absolutely. And they also work in Ghana, so I send things over to Ghana quite a bit. But I have a customer she's from Denmark. It's really quite international, actually. I have people in New York that's normal as well. I have a Tara St. James. She has a company called Study New York, and then I have another customer, Vincetta, in New York. So yeah, it's a wonderful thing for designers that have smaller productions, because we can do smaller productions with the hand weaving. If you have an electric what do you call it, a loom, you have to have 1,000 yards as a minimum, and this we can start with 20 yards as a minimum. So for designers who really want to have their own fabrics and choose their own colors and everything, it's a really great, you know, thing. And so then they also know that it's ethical.
So a little bit later on in this series, we're going to see the production of your fabrics, from how they are dyed, and, you know, going and seeing some of the weavers in action. So that's really, really fabulous. But you've got some of your fabrics behind you. So tell us a little bit about those, because you've got some really nice, they're actually autumn colours. I can see they're a little bit of summer. So can you, once these, the cotton has been picked and treated, etc., can you turn it into any colour that we wish?
Yes, yes, because I have chosen to use fiber reactive dyes, which gives you the full spectrum of color. And it's basically the least toxic option for dyes that are really going to give you that full spectrum and also be very color fast. So we have. Well, would you like to look at some of these fabrics?
Oh, most definitely.
I don't know if you can see very well. Can you see them? This
yes.
is a nice weave. It's a chevron weave that takes quite an interesting footwork on the looms. This was a fabric that was just made of the leftover yarns, so it's kind of a one-off fabric that at the end of the season we make a fabric out of all the leftover yarns that are lying around.
I mean, I think that's fantastic, because it means that there's no waste.
Yeah, we really don't waste. Yeah. Even we also make things out of all the scraps. For instance, this is a wrap skirt that we've made out of all the patchwork of little scraps that are lying around. So I save everything and we make everything into something. There's really very, very little waste.
Fantastic. That's what I'm all about as well. So in terms of sustainable, ethical, ecological friendly fashion, what is it do you think are, I personally don't think that you can be it's such a wide, broad subject, and there's so many different facets to it. What I do when I'm kind of like educating somebody that wants to start this journey of being more of a conscious consumer, I say, like, choose one thing initially that you are going to focus on. So don't try and fight the economy, don't try and fight environment, fair trade, animal cruelty. Don't try and do it all at once, because you'll end up probably walking butt naked, because it's too much. It's too much. So why did you decide? I mean, for me, I'm very much about fair trade and waste. So I shop in second-hand and thrift shops. If I'm going onto the high street, I'll make sure I choose brands that have really good sustainability policies, and I'll try to make moves towards being more environmentally friendly or fair trade friendly. What made you decide to focus on the environment? Because I know that's something that you're passionate about. You've already mentioned that before.
Well, I guess I was quite shocked when I started to look into the way things are made and the effect that has on people's lives. It's we forget when we buy something that there's a human behind that product,
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's so much less about robots than we think, especially in fashion. It's a very manual thing. There's somebody behind that machine with their eyes, really guiding it through, and it hasn't changed a lot. It hasn't become this very modern mechanized thing where humans don't have to worry about anything anymore. And so I guess that's been so touching to me, and it starts all the way back into the field, when the people place those seeds right into the soil. It's all so every step of the way, human hands have been touching this, and those stories just start to really touch me, and I want to be part of making things more harmonious. We have to figure out a relationship between us and the way we make things in our planet, so we can all be helping each other rather than hindering each other from growing the way we should. So so the environment for me was it's also such a human story. It's not a scientific you know, climate change and everything sounds like a sort of a science topic or something, but it really is people and their lives and how they're feeling day to day. And so that's what really got me excited about working in this way. And you know, when you look into the cotton industry, there's really so much abuse, and there's so many stories of people having such a hard time, such a hard time. And we need to go in the right direction. It's not that we'll do it from one day to the other. Organic cotton, for instance, is still a labor-intensive process. It's still hard work for the farmers. It's not like they're, you know, living like kings all of a sudden or anything like that. But it definitely is a big improvement. I've really gone out to a lot of farmers and spoken to them, and the organic farmers have told me, you know, what it's brought them. They've talked about how they've seen wildlife come back to their fields that they hadn't seen for 10 years, you know, lizards that they hadn't seen all of a sudden, you know, and for them it's important. All that ecosystem is important. They need the termites to feed their chickens. They need the, you know, they can't just do this monocropping thing, because they need everything in there, because we're all full, complete people. So I guess that's, you know, once you realize how human the whole experience is, I think it really brings it home.
Absolutely. And I can hear a little one in the background. I don't
Yes,
know.
I'm going to tell him. Hey, Amélie, voilà, tu peux lui dire de ne pas crier. Merci.
But it's fabulous when somebody can bring their children to work and the boss doesn't mind. You know, as you say, it's all part of that human journey, and whether it's the environment and, you know, plastics in the ocean, or us being able to, you know, live well with each other, it's you know, all about us living harmoniously, as it were.
Yeah.
Well, tell us a little bit about your design work. We've spoken about the fabrics, but, you know, I want to promote you as a designer because I have been on your website. Xoomba, which is the name of your business. I'm not sure if I named it if I mentioned it earlier. Tell us what that means, and then talk to us about a little bit about your design aesthetics.
Let's see. I guess I really enjoy. I enjoy a certain simplicity in the design. I don't personally have. I don't think I have a influence that has sort of any ethnic context, really. Very much more in I you know, I come from theater. I also come from dance. And I like to make things that feel good to move in. I like I like it to have a certain flexibility, a certain feeling that you can really have a freedom of movement in the clothing. So I work a lot with the bias, meaning I turn it on the diagonal, and so it gives it more elasticity. And that I would say is sort of one of my central design specialities, I guess you'd say. I am a real sucker for bright colors. I like colors, although, you know, I can do, for instance, we do have this this simple sort of grayish dress, which a lot of people love because it's the one thing that I have that doesn't have bright colors.
Can you put it off the rail there? Can you put it off the rail and show us? Because for me, in terms of, you know, this is a really nice, simple dress that can be worn in the summer. We were talking earlier about how I'm kind of like wrapped up in my winter woolies, and Heather's there all kind of looking summery. But this dress here is something that can be worn in the summer as well as in the winter with a nice jacket or something like that.
Exactly.
That dress is ideal for, you know, for work.
All year long. Yeah. So we have some simple and more subdued designs, but we also have, you know, like this shirt has been really popular, totally, you know, super bright. The massive madras. It has also a bias back here, so very you know, comfortable. And we have, what do we else? Let's see. Whoops. I mean, this is not the whole, this is just some things that are hanging around in the studio. It's not the whole collection, but this, we just did a nice little hoodie, very comfortable, easygoing.
Nice casual.
Yeah, casual, very casual. And again, it's on the bias. So it really is flexible, and it at the same time as being comfortable, it also kind of hugs your body.
Yes.
And I tend to like making clothes for people that like their bodies, like they're not trying to hide their bodies. So it's not sack of potato type things. They usually.
I work with people to show them what styles to wear that will enhance their bodies, because most of us have got something that we don't like. There's always, something that we don't like, especially us as women. You know, the media have influenced us so much that we have to have these perfect bodies, and we don't. We just need to learn how to dress them appropriately and in a way that will make us feel comfortable and confident.
Yeah. I mean, and it's funny, here in Africa, people have no complexes for different shapes. There's, very tall, skinny people, and then there's big, chubby people, and everyone seems to be happy with their forms. They don't hide themselves. And so I definitely, I like that. I like, I like shape. I do really like shape. I don't like things to be just straight or, but we have, oh, I put that away. Well, this is a nice new fabric that we did. This is total party dress here.
Lovely, nice little summer dress there.
Yeah, it's just really bold fabric. There's a lot of different things here. So there you go.
There we go. So over the next 4 weeks, what we're going to do is visit the different elements of Heather's business. We've mentioned before, and you can probably see that this is a very grassroots small business that's really having an impact on a community in Burkina Faso that has the resources, has the manpower to create great things. And I think that it's fabulous that Heather's there. So in the next video, in video 2, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be meeting with some of her dyers, which dye the fabric from, not the fabric, dye the yarn.
Right.
And the cotton to make all those fabulous colours that we have there. Then we're going to be visiting her weave factory when they turn that yarn into the pieces of material that we see there. And then we're going to be back in your studio again, where we're turning those fabrics into the garments that you see there. So we're really going to kind of take you on a journey of what it really takes to create the garments that you're wearing there. And if you don't even want to go down the sustainable style journey, at least you're, hopefully what we want you to do is appreciate what it takes, whether it be on a small scale or a large scale, to make clothes that you're in, and hopefully you'll make some more content.
But it's quite special here that you can have all of those pieces just one after the other, because many things in the fashion industry, they're sent long distances between their different stages of production. So here we have we have the dyers just right outside, and then here's where we're designing and we're doing the sewing work, and then just up the street is where the weavers are. So that's really makes a very community, the people feel part of a community like that. They feel they understand where each element is going after their work, and it makes more sense for people. It makes it more holistic.
What's really beautiful, and with my career coaching head on, I would say that building that community, you have a team around you, whether it be your suppliers in terms of the weavers, or your staff that come in to sew the material or dye the material. They're really invested because they know that what you're doing is benefiting them now, but also their children and their community in the future. So
That's a hope. Yeah.
And for me, that's what I think people that are starting up in business should be thinking about. It's not just all about making the money. It's about how you making your income is having a wider impact.
Absolutely. Well, great talking to you.
Okay. Is there anything else that you wanted to say for now?
Gosh, I hope I said everything, but I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
You did actually answered some of my questions before I asked them, so that's great and no problem. So everybody, we will see you on the next video, which will be coming out next week, and we hope you do join us. Please do subscribe and set your notifications so you don't miss it, and we look forward to seeing you then. Take care for now. Bye bye.
Bye bye. So are you not recording now?
Hold on.
I have to put this